Okay, welcome back. And we're about to close out this one-on-one nightly show. Miles and I, we've both attended New York Liberty games. And by the grace of God, some luck, and actual really good performances, we have the New York Liberty in the playoffs. I'm so excited. I was praying and praying for this, like I was on the team. But they will take on the Phoenix Mercury tomorrow night, 10 p.m. in Phoenix. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a single elimination game. So it's a very different format that we might be used to from the NBA, but the stakes are high. And like I saw last week on Friday, the Liberty played well when they were high stakes. It was a must-win game, and they ended up winning. They ended up beating the Mystics to make it into playoffs, and then the Mystics and Lynx both ended up losing. Or the Mystics and Sparks, excuse me, ended up losing on Sunday to give the Liberty the entrance. But Miles, you have a unique perspective to provide because you actually watched two games that the Liberty played against Phoenix at Barclays Center.
Yeah, no, I did go. I had the honor, the pleasure to go to these two games against the Phoenix Mercury. And game one, Phoenix was completely healthy. They had their big three in Sky Diggins-Smith, Diana Taurasi, and Brittany Griner. And Brittany Griner, in the final minute of a straight up blowout, hits the deck with this emphatic scream. And everyone in the stands is very concerned. It truly looks like a season-ending injury for Brittany Griner. Everyone was worried. Everyone was holding their breath. But so she sat out game two. And my point of that is Phoenix still kind of rolled them handily, given Liberty looked in the game. But even without Brittany Griner in game two, it was a Wednesday and a Friday game. Even in the Friday game, Liberty really never had a chance. So to be honest, I'm not too optimistic about this game, given that those games were at Barclays. This game is a one-game elimination in Phoenix. So it's going to be a tough one for the Liberty. Now, obviously, at the time, they weren't nearly playing as well as they are right now. It seems that the coach has gotten them into their vibe and into their mood, because before they didn't seem too motivated. This was an issue. When I started covering the Liberty, it seemed like they were a guaranteed playoff team. And then by the end of my short tenure with the Liberty, they were fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, it was hard to watch. I believe during my time covering them, they had lost 11 out of the last 12. And I personally never attended a Barclays Center game where the Liberty were able to secure a win. So it was a tough stretch of basketball to watch in the final couple months of the season. Obviously, the WNBA teams only play 32 games as of now. I think that's one of the things that needs to be changed about the WNBA, because having that 32 game season towards the end of the year, if you're not playing well, there's no getting that back. There's no 82 games the way there is in the NBA. So that'd be one of the fixes, I'd say. But obviously, Gigi, I know you're a bit more optimistic about the Liberty's chances, but to me, it's going to be a tough one.
I mean, okay, so there's so many things to change about the WNBA. I think they're doing a lot of things right, and that's the reason that we're here right now talking about it, is because they're doing a good job marketing, but there's so many things to change. There's so many unique things as well. So the month-long break that they have, that hiatus for the Olympic and All-Star break, is revolutionary for teams like the Liberty. And that's why I would say is you have a player like you saw, Natasha Howard. She put up less than 20 in the first game that you saw, but she's a crazy like center presence for the Liberty.
Yeah.
They obviously need necessarily if they're going up against Brittany Griner. But on June 13th, that first game, or their first actual matchup of the season against Phoenix, it was a close game. The Liberty won 85-83. So for the Liberty, I feel like it was a tale of two seasons. After the break, they come back. They lose all these games in a row. You start covering them too. They lost 106-79 in their first matchup that you saw on August 25th, and then again 80-64. So yeah, it's a closer game. You don't have Brittany Griner dominating the paint, but they're still losing by a great amount. And then that's part of their 8-game losing streak heading into the end of the regular season. So yeah, there was a lot of road games. There's inconsistencies in scheduling and travel, but they're losing 8 games heading into the end. And then they finally turned that around last Friday with the 91-80 win. A must win too over the Mystics. So I think like you said, the WNBA has a lot of things that I think they could improve on. I'm sure people would want to see more than 32 games. And yeah, the month-long break helped this year, but that's not going to be available next year. So for people, even the Mystics benefited a lot from the month-long because you have Elena Deladon coming off of injury, coming back, and it didn't help that much. She couldn't even play last Friday. That would have been a difference maker. But I mean, you mentioned it before. The Mercury are so good. Yeah, I'm a little optimistic. I have to be, especially off of the fact that they even made the playoffs this year. But yeah, I'm being realistic too. And you have the logo. They're playing the logo. Diana Taurasi's still in the league and she's on the team.
No.
Like, that's something that's just so mind-blowing too about the WNBA. I think the Liberty have great performers. And last Friday after the game, not only Coach Wall Hopkins, but all players that were in the press conference were saying that this is our team. Everybody we have right now, and the fact that they made the playoffs and they're giving up a good draft pick is so important because they found their core. It worked last week. They came off so hot in the first quarter. I forget what the point differential was, but it was the biggest point differential I had actually seen at Barclays Center. Yeah, I haven't seen that many wins either, like you. Like
Yeah.
that was only the third win I was a part of. But I mean, that being said, I think that there is hope for Liberty tomorrow night. A lot of things have to go right and they can't mess up at all, but they have an offensive presence that I think can match up pretty well against the Mercury tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I thought Hopkins was absolutely going to be canned at the end of this year, and now it seems that it's not a guarantee the way it was 2 weeks ago, because it didn't seem like the Liberty were trending in the right direction at all. The Sparks obviously had a bit of a turnaround, and they beat the Liberty once in Barclays during, I believe, Hurricane Henry. I was slated to go to the game, but Hurricane Henry kept me from it. But it's a tough matchup against a really good team. They're lucky to be here. They really are, because they needed some some unbelievable luck. You can call it unbelievable luck. You need some good teams to lose, and the Liberty got that, and they earned their spot. And it's funny because Sky Diggins-Smith is, of course, who they have to play in the first round. And Sky Diggins-Smith is a Liberty killer. She had the Twitter beef earlier this year with
God,
the Liberty team, and
yeah.
comes into this 2-game set at Barclays, and I believe she was 6 for 9 from deep in the first half of game one. It was a truly unbelievable start. They got them out to a lead they couldn't blow. So if Sky Diggins-Smith has one of those games at home for the Mercury, the Liberty have absolutely no chance. And that's just how it's going to be when you have 3 superstars. Any of them can turn it on at any time in Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, and Sky Diggins-Smith. And Sky Diggins-Smith is, to me, one of the most underrated players in the WNBA. I think she should be top 5 in MVP race year in and year out. She's that productive. So I'm looking forward to the matchup. It's absolutely going to be tough for the Liberty. And the Liberty, I have to be honest, they haven't lived up individually. A lot of their players have not lived up to the expectations. To be Sabrina Ionescu, obviously she was touted to be the next GOAT, the next Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird type player. And obviously it's early. Like we said, the logo's still in the league. So how long can Ionescu play for? It's going to be a long tenure for her. Hopefully she spends most of her career with the New York Liberty, but she has a lot of time left to turn it around. But right now, she hasn't played the way we expected. She's a facilitator now. She scored Oregon. She's a facilitator now, but she just doesn't seem to have that it factor as a scorer when it counts. So we'll see if she's able to perform tomorrow.
We talked about this before the show started. I completely disagree with you. I am not giving up on my girl Sab. Dude, she's not a scorer, but she is a scorer when it matters. And also she doesn't need to be a scorer is what I would say too. But Nigel Laney is one of their most prolific scorers. She went to the All-Star game too. I can't believe I just called you dude, by the way. That just threw me for a loop. That's how heated I am about this topic. So,
it's a personal debate.
It's getting deep right now. Okay, I think that Sabrina also, something about her, I feel like New York is the best fit for her. Yes, she was used to being more of a shooting guard, maybe a 2 or 3 at Oregon, and now she's forced to play that point guard role. But at the same time, New York was in dire need of a superstar. And the turnaround that they've had, they were happy with stopping last Friday. That's what I would say. From their time in the Wubble, they didn't do that well. And then to their success that they've had this season, even if it's only a 12-20 record, they're proud of where they are. I was thinking that Hopkins was going to leave for a little bit, but the fact that he harps on consistency so much is, in one way, you could tell. Sometimes you couldn't blame the players for the losses that they have. Someone that I think really stands out and works well with Sabrina is a vet in Sammy Whitcomb. And for a while, she led the WNBA in 3-point shots. And last week, the Liberty actually broke the WNBA season record for threes in a game. So she's more than an offensive presence for the team, and she is more of like a vocal leadership, locker room leadership that I feel like Sabrina needed coming into the league. Because you think about it, she is just a rookie. She came in and she had to play in the bubble, and I think that's a lot. That's a lot on a rookie. So a lot of people are considering this her rookie year. She had a lot of success earlier on, a lot of Eastern Conference Player of the Week, some buzzer beaters even, and nail biters.
Yeah.
And man, she's a killer too. She is a killer. She wants to win. And I think that we could expect her to turn it on tomorrow night. Last week, she scored 22 points when it mattered. And it was a quiet 22. You couldn't really tell because you had people like Natasha Howard and Benai Jelani just absolutely, like, their balls, everything was sinking. And someone, like I said, Benai Jelani, she is also a killer on defense. And I think that's what we can see in a really solid matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if she's, even though she's a little bit bigger, matching up against Sky Diggs tomorrow night.
And that's what you would need. And you would expect a big defensive night out of Laney. It's going to be necessary to keep Diggins in check and keep the Liberty in this game. I'm a huge fan of Laney myself as well. I think she's absolutely the MVP of this Liberty team. She's the person who you pass to when the game's on the line. She's that player who you want the ball in her hand when it counts. She's a bucket getter. She is a serious defensive presence. And I'm excited for what she can do in the playoffs because she hasn't had a lot of playoff opportunity. So I hope that she's able to come through with a big night. Obviously, I understand what you're saying about Ionescu's killer mindset. I love her attitude. I love what she represents on the court, right? She's a grinder with a great presence who looks to dish the ball out at any time she can. I just don't know if she has that it factor or she has that Sky Diggins Smith type scoring ability that's necessary to be that top tier superstar in this league. When you look at Diana Taurasi, the Sioux Birds, the true greatest of all time, not only can they facilitate, but they have that Laney quality where you want the ball in their hands. And for Ionescu to make that jump, obviously she still can. It's so early in her young career coming out of Oregon, genuinely around our age. She's not too much older than us, and she's so mature. She really plays like an adult out there. When I watch her warm up, it's so crazy. She doesn't warm up with the teams. It's this Kobe Bryant situation where I honestly, I know she had that relationship with Kobe Bryant. I'm not sure if this is something that he taught her, but she's always out there getting her work in to about an hour before the team comes out for her. And then she rejoins the team maybe 10, 15 minutes before they come out and warm up right before game time. But she seems locked in on game day. She wants to be that leader. I just don't know if I've seen the offensive output necessary to give her the accolades that everyone else has. And I'm excited for this game. It's going to take the Natasha Howard performance. It's going to take and you mentioned Sammy Whitcomb. So it's a great point because I was at the game, I believe it was prior to her injury. And she was just lights out from three and carrying Liberty to like an emotional place in this game where they were really in it. And then that was the only game I got to see in person with Whitecomb on the floor. After that, she was injured the rest. And they didn't have that same spirit, that same enthusiasm, that same grinding mentality that's necessary, that veteran presence can provide. So I'm excited for what this Liberty team can do in the future. Although to me, in a one-game situation, this isn't the year. But that being said, in the future, it should not be a one-game situation in the playoffs. That needs to be changed.